Come on, go live. Somebody's not connecting. Weird. Hey, Suzanne, could you push the live button on your end? See if something happens? Thanks. This is weird. I see you're having trouble too. Simon, we're not sure what's going on. Just hang tight. Weird.
It wouldn't be because the date was wrong when it was loaded, right? That shouldn't have any bearing on it.
No. I think what I'm going to do is, hold on. We're live. Hey, thank you, StreamYard. All right, let's get this started. Suzanne, see you later. We'll talk to. Hey, look at me. Keep watching the show.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy. We think we're live is what we'll call it today. Not so sure. It looks like we're having some trouble going up on some challenges on some of the channels. So if you're not watching this right now, don't worry. You'll get to watch it later. But then again, if you're watching it later, I guess you're watching it right now. I don't know. I'm very confused over here in regard. Thank you for watching No Vacancy Live. My name, of course, is Glenn Hausman. Anthony's on a plane right now, so he won't be here today. But I'm excited to have each and every one of you here with me today, because today we're going to be talking a little bit about Aimbridge and extended stay hotels before and select service hotels and all that kind of good stuff, and the stuff that you really want to talk about. But before we get into that, I want to thank the good folks over at Choice Hotels International for sponsoring this program a couple of days a week. Thank you out there. And listen, they are doing great stuff, particularly with the Radisson Legacy brands. When I was out in California last week at the opening of the Everhome Suites, I got to talk to their CEO, Pat Pacious, about what it's been like absorbing that and how that is going to be a really great opportunity for Choice Hotels franchise owners to be even more successful. It's really a scenario of 1 + 1 = 3 over here. Be sure to check out those brands by contacting the franchising division. Of course, we're talking Radisson Blue. We're talking Radisson Red. We're talking Country Inn and Suites and more. Speaking of all of those different brands, I liked Everhome Suites when I was there last week. And one guy that I know likes extended stay. He's going to be joining us right now. We're talking to Simon Mendy. Really excited to see you, my friend. Divisional President, Aimbridge Hospitality, focused on select service. How are you, Simon?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be here, Glenn.
You're doing much better than me. My mouth is like all garbled and stuff like that. That was like the weirdest thing. We weren't going live, then we suddenly went live, and I don't know. Usually I'm not thrown by these things.
Technology. That's our new friend, technology.
Maybe it's the universe punishing me for working on Yom Kippur when I should be atoning for things. But we'll see about that. Simon, thanks for being here. How cool is it for you being a divisional president of the largest management company out there?
Sometimes I pinch myself because it's great to be in this position. And when you think about Aimbridge is doing something that's never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
And quite interesting, if you think about the evolution of Aimbridge, almost every quarter, we're a different company because of our growth trajectory. So to be part of something that is ever evolving, ever growing, and different from what anybody has ever seen, I think it's huge. And to be in this industry, as you know, the industry also is ever changing, right? So I'm excited. And I'm excited to be here too with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's cool. So I want to start the conversation with, you're over at Aimbridge now, but prior to that, you were at Extended Stay America. So
Right.
you were in on the whole extended stay thing way before other people were catching on. For your viewers out there who don't know, I was involved in that kind of world as well, doing something called Here to Stay TV. When I first started my own business, it was kind of in conjunction with No Vacancy Live, and that focused all on extended stay and all the apartments and the Airbnb stuff that we're seeing now. So I suddenly realized as soon as I got involved in that, Simon, what a cool business that was. How did you get involved in the extended stay business, and had you heard of it at that time?
No, I didn't.
Right.
Way back, and this was my first job in the hospitality.
Oh, cool.
I went to college, and I was front desk.
Right.
And I saw the hotel, and my friend said you should go apply there, and I did in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I did and started as front desk, and before you knew it, I was doing everything. I was helping the housekeeping team, back of the house team, doing night audit. So you get your hands into everything to an extent that you start becoming so good at it. You know? And it's intoxicating because once you get immersed into the hospitality industry, it's hard to get out because you wire different. Anything else, you get bored.
Right.
So, and you begin to appreciate the value and extended stay. To your point, these guests, you start to know them personally because they stay longer.
Right.
And it's not a one-day transaction, a couple of days. So relationships get built, so it changes you.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've been sucked into it, and it's been part of my life until today.
That's pretty cool, though, that you actually get to know those types of people. Did you have any relationships that lasted over a number of years because they would come back from time to time?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. And they are keen on asking for you, like, are you still there? And then you have to call back and say, yes, I'm still here. But not only that, even relationship with the teams, because you get to know your team so much closer that it creates that bond that even if it is not continuation of your same assignment, you get to cross paths along the way in the same organization. And so I can see myself and my colleagues growing in different trajectories in the industry. And it's amazing how when we get together, it's just a lot of laughs and a lot of just reminiscence on the whole experience. I mean, it's just great.
That is fantastic. And that bonded you to them. Dr. Producer Suzanne is saying behind stage, smaller teams with lots of cross-training in the hotel happens. And that probably fosters those great relationships. And it's kind of like, for me on the conference circuit, it was kind of like you there. It was like your freshman class. And those people that stayed in the business, you stay friends with for decades, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
No, I can't argue that more. I'm glad you said, you're a hospitality guy. You just said it, cross-training, right? It's the uniqueness of the space. And that is why you asked me about how is it cool to be with Aimbridge. I'm excited even more now because of this whole divisional dynamics. I think we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
It gives you that focused expertise in that area. That cross-training becomes a critical element of how you stretch resources across the organization to get things done. And even more critical now with the staffing situation. How do you do that in a different scale that it pays dividend for you? And that is where I come into play with my executive team. And we focused on driving that buy hotel, buy ownership group to bring in the biggest value and return into our ability to really make sure that our teams are diversified, not just in general diversity, but diversity in skill set.
Right.
That they're able to execute and deliver results beyond you can imagine. So it's fantastic.
So at what point did you make that transition from property level human being to being in the executive club?
Oh God, it was in California. I was assigned in San Diego, and our prospect CEO, Jim Donald, was visiting, I think, to make up his mind either to join the organization or not.
Right.
So Blackstone had him come on tour and they assigned him to me.
Yep.
So in that tour, he's asking me, what are you going to change? What don't you like? What would you do different?
Right.
And I'm a young guy. I'm an original guy. I'm just excited. I'm just giving it to him, right?
Yeah.
And he 2 weeks later, it got announced he's the CEO. I'm like, what? I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he called me and said, I want you at the corporate office in North Carolina. I said, for what? And he's like, for this position. I need to change and move on. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So by you being your authentic self, plus having a very positive attitude, you were able to make a connection with somebody that wound up helping you. And I think that's a really good lesson to learn about putting out positivity in the universe all the time. I'm a real big believer. If you put out those good vibes, it's going to come back to you in unexpected ways. And that sounds like one of them.
Hey, Glenn, that's what we do every day. That's hospitality at its very best. You can't get good when you can't give good, right? Yeah. You can't get great when you can't produce great. It just reciprocates, and you got to be there to really change people's moods, impact them in a way, impact owners in a way that, they have not seen before. And that's why you'll also get that in return, which is from the guest side, returning guests, from the owner side, continue to dedicate it to you and growing with you. So that's what hospitality is all about.
Yeah, it sure is. And now you're divisional president at Aimbridge Hospitality, in charge of the select service portfolio. What types of brands are you working with to help orient our listeners?
Oh, goodness. Like all across, you have the Hilton extended stay brand, the Choice, you mentioned Choice, great partner, extended stay brand, Marriott, you name it. You have extended stay America, you have IHG, the plethora of the extended stay choices. And I think that it goes all the way. So I think for us, like, we are just excited about this opportunity. And I think extended stay is extended stay. Each of these brands have their unique attributes. And that is really what's cool about it, because every customer, based on their needs, fits a specific product. And it is genius to find out what it is that the customer wants, and you're able to match them with the appropriate product, given their length of stay, given their service preference, the deliverables, or even just some of the amenities that the hotel offers that fits what they're looking for.
So how does that work, Simon? Because I never asked this question before, but I'm curious to learn more about you as a management company, looking at not just a portfolio of brands with one company, but lots of different companies that are represented there. Are you seeking out these guests as an Aimbridge person? And like, for example, working with a company as an Aimbridge person, you can put them in a Home 2 here, the Everhome Suites in Corona if they're there, that sort of thing? Or is it more each individual brand kind of focuses on, building business for themselves? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so in my world, it's twofold, multiple-fold actually. The brand does this thing. The brand has this engine. It has the power of the brand behind it. They do their work, right? And that always contributes, which is brand contribution.
Right. A lot of times it could be 50, 60%.
Exactly. Or it could be 30% or 25%.
Depending on the nature of the brand.
Exactly. But then you have the piece where we in Aimbridge, we also have our expertise in that area, where we have dedicated expertise in making sure that we engaging our engines in digital marketing, in e-commerce, that we are also able to enlist our hotels on programs that could end up giving us good returns, understanding who our core customers are, and targeting them in our digital marketing initiatives. So we're able to do that. Then we have our sales engine, where we have a hotel sales team that we're deploying by giving them specifically what areas the demand exists and where they could target, either by market basis, a corporate basis, or even ComSet. Because check this out, look, you got to steal business sometimes, right? And our teams are trained on how to identify what's in the competition and tactics and ways in which they could be very good and sharp in winning over business. Then the national sales. Those guys really oversee major national accounts. They know trends, they know demand generators on the national front, and they pursue and also help point our teams to the right direction on where to go and what specifically qualifies that account that they can win over. And that's really where we play with it. Then lastly, you have the decision on which customer fits a hotel. Sometimes could deal with their price point. And we have to match the two, because some owners, to drive profitability, RevPAR is important. Some will tell you anything less than 90% RevPAR, it's not profitable for me. That's based on their target. Or we work it. We have a plethora of hotels that there is a home for every clientele base that we
Right.
have.
For example, I keep thinking back to a strategy I learned about last week at the Everhome opening. The company Paladin that built that's also building some Wood Springs. So within that Choice family, they're now able to sell like supervisors at the Everhome and the line workers at the Wood Spring, for example. And theoretically, you could do that with this hotel and that hotel, each brand from being different companies, but customers don't care about that part of the inside baseball stuff, right?
That is very correct. And now I think what's Choice has done is they've bridged the gap now. Right. Because it was like one size, Wood Springs is all you got, make it work, right? And they've really diversified in a sense that now they've given the extended stay demand pool options. And I think the mid-scale, which is the Everhome, fits a certain demography, and they've been missing that, and they've solved that piece now. And then you have the Wood Spring brand, which is proven in its excellence in just attractive margins, right? And simplicity. And that continues to work too. And I think they're in a great position, if you ask me. So I think that's a great position to be in.
Yeah, it certainly is. So are you just seeing, I mentioned last week, 35% of all hotels under construction right now fit within that extended stay. So does that mean, Simon, you are now getting at this point a higher percentage of properties coming to your division than, let's say, Rob Smith's full service luxury division over there?
Well, you guessed it, the growth trajectory. You and I know that extended stay has always been a great product. A great vertical, right? We know the margins are attractive. We know it's very resilient. And we've proven that multiple cycles of the economic downturns that has happened since 2006, right? But I think for some reason, COVID brought it out in the open and in the limelight that there seems to be an epiphany and a new realization of the value of it. So now you have a lot of ownership groups that are in the business, but never invested in extended stay. Now they're diversifying their portfolio. Realizing the benefit of it and also the risk mitigation strategy in that, right? So of course it is growing, and we are positioned in Aimbridge to really be able to create a system where we can absorb this demand, this new inflow in the pipeline, and we can have these owners realize their aspirations to grow their portfolios. So that's where we are, and we are very positioned to be it because we resourced. If you look at my team, the depth of knowledge on extended stay and the depth of knowledge in select service is amazing. You're talking about 19, 25, 30 years experience in the space. That's what you're dealing with. With my team.
That's pretty cool. And you've been in it for a couple of decades now. Not that you look like you could have been in it for a couple of decades now, but I will say that when you're looking at both sides, we talked a little bit about extended stay. It's really been maturing and finding its voice within the industry. But how has the general select service type properties changed over the last couple of years that doesn't have that emphasis on the food and beverage like the Hilton Garden Inn, which would fall into your enhanced select service division?
Yes. I think when you think about it, first of all, I like to begin on the people side. Because as a matter of fact, for us, our culture in Aimbridge is all about people. We're in the people business. And we talk about giving them a place to grow, a place to belong, and a place to succeed, right? And when we talk about attracting best talent, you look at even talent that's out there from the graduating hospitality students, their aspiration is not to come and be a housekeeper, right? Their aspiration is to come in and start to be a supervisor or a GM. As a matter of fact, they want to be the director of operations. The reality is the select service is a great starting point. So when we think about attracting talent, we are focused on bringing them in. Even if the aspiration is full service, we create a pathway to get there. And we have a very clear pathway for growth and development for our teams in Aimbridge. So we get them in for any position that fits them into the growth pattern. And then now we grow and develop them. So we have changed our thinking in trying to think that we could go in and try to attract the best talent and experienced GM. In some cases, they're moving on to other things.
Right.
Or in some cases, their salary range is so high that in some cases, some managers, some owners may not have an appetite for that. But we're able to bring energized new talent. I mean, well polished from school. They have great acumen in the terms of the technical piece, and we help them grow in leadership. So we do that. Then we look at the demand generator. How do we source our business? We're getting very creative. In a few cases, we thought you would think that, big box hotel would benefit more from digital investment, e-commerce. No, we figured out and found our niche on the digital front, which is why we have our Aimbridge digital team. One team located in Plano, the other in Fargo, North Dakota, and we are doing excellent work in being able. Market penetration has been a significant improvement for us, and we've been able to do that with being able to just be very thoughtful in how we attract our demand generators and how we also attract talent to be able to make sure that we are ready to service that kind of demand pool when it comes to our hotel.
All right, so you just gave me a lot to digest there, but let's start with the latter before the former, attracting people to pay to stay in the hotels. How are customers responding? And by how are they responding, I mean, through what mechanisms are they responding? Is it TikTok ads? Is it emails? Is it carrier pigeons delivering notes to people, begging them to stay? How does it work?
All of the above.
Yeah, good. I like the carrier pigeon thing. It's very clever.
I'm telling you, in this day and age of technology, we started off talking about technology, right? Customers are resourceful and they know how to reach you.
Right.
And sometimes I get direct emails and I'm like, that is smart. Customers can reach you from email to social media to through our survey platforms, Medallia, you name it. We have Facebook accounts, we have Snap, we have it all. So I think we're in a position in technology where you have to invest in these because customers are very savvy and they know where to go, they know how to reach you, and you want to make sure you're right there with them. So for us, even in social media, if it's a TripAdvisor survey, we read it.
Right.
And we will reach out immediately. If it is a post, we'll read it. We'll reach out. LinkedIn is another way. We get these pings where a customer reaches out and say, I would love to meet with you, or I have some concern. And immediately we're in connection with them. So we are readily available. And I think that's where we have so much of these resources in our office that people that are supporting our GMs, looking at these things and pointing them to the right direction rather than GMs getting on a goose chase to find, to look for customer feedback or customer reaction.
Right. And by having that direct connectivity, even if you have a negative touch point with them at first, chances are people just want to be heard, and you can turn those into even more loyal customers.
Absolutely. It's a gift when a customer actually reaches out. It is a gift more than anything else. Because if they never wanted anything to do with you, they wouldn't have bothered. They'll just walk away.
That's a really good point. It's kind of like that love-hate thing. It's both filled with emotion, and they're kind of tied with each other. It's that apathy that you have to worry about. The guests that have a meh experience and just walk out the door, you never know who they are.
You never know.
Right.
That's correct.
Interesting. All right, back to the former, since we talked about the latter. How are you I don't want to know necessarily how you're creating the career paths for people.
Yes.
But how do you alert them that they actually understand that there's a career path? Because Simon, one of the things that I'm finding we're having trouble with here in the hospitality industry is getting young people to understand that it's not just housekeeping, front desk, and general manager, right? There are so many things on property. Plus, with an organization like Aimbridge, there's many opportunities like you got with the, with Extended Stay of America to get called to the home office, for example. So how are you creating careers instead of giving people jobs?
So that is a great point. And I think there are many touch points, right? First of all, we know the general aspect of performance review, where you have an annual basis. In Aimbridge, we do it midpoint. We have the annual and the midpoint review, where you sit with people and talk about how they performed over time and how they could improve and be better, right, for themselves and also for their career, right? But then you have the talent review process, where we get together as supervisors and leaders and say, each of our talent, where do they fit in the box?
Right.
And what's their aspiration? Is this it for them? What do they aspire to do?
Mhm.
Based on that and readiness, in some cases, if they're not ready, we have a program to get them ready. So a development plan. And in cases where they're ready, now we can go in and say, look, these are your options. This is your goal. How do we get you there? And these are discussions they have with their supervisors. And we draw up that plan and eventually gets there. Funny, just last week, we made decisions on 2 regionals who would be VPs now.
Right.
Who over time, my 4 years of being here, we've identified, put them on that trajectory, developed them, and they're ready. And we didn't have to go outside to fill those gaps.
Right. So do you do something like you're talking to a DOSM from a select service property or a cluster of properties, if that's the way you do it, and you're in that review and you're like, you really have an aptitude of this, maybe at some point you might want to think about being a business development person for the company to find more owners to do management contracts with us.
Yes.
Do you have those kinds of conversations?
Absolutely. But it starts from asking them the question, what do you aspire to do? Where do you see yourself?
Right.
Because I think it has to come from the individual, because once they share what their aspirations are, then you're in a much better position to say, this is what I recommend. And I also think you have a potential for this. Do you want to know more about it?
Right.
In some cases, they're not aware.
That's exactly where my next question was going to be, because you don't know what you don't know. And if I don't know there's a human being that talks to hotel owners and developers out there to sell them management deals, then you can't even aspire to that, right?
I totally agree. And that's where the corporate entity comes to play, the corporate support. We have to, in the industry, we have to do a better job of making sure we create an opportunity for the field to hear and know exactly everything about what the organization is doing, our goals, and what options are available to them. So in Aimbridge, we have multiple platforms where we have general market activities, where we have the sales revenue management team travel around and bring everybody together. We have a market connect where, for example, if I travel to Houston, I won't leave Houston before I get all the general managers together on a happy hour, where we spend time with them, just talk about the experience, how things are going. We give them some corporate business updates. All of things is just to educate them on what's going on out there.
Right.
That some of them would come back to you and say, you know what, I'm so glad you talked about this because I never knew and I want to know more about it.
Right.
And that's where it starts.
Yeah. And it is where it starts. And it's so important for us to connect the dots for these young people, that they understand that, as I said before, this is a career opportunity, not just a job while they're in college, or if they're trying to just pay some expenses to take care of their family. Right. So, Simon, what are owners thinking about these days? There's a lot of tumult in the world, not to say that this time is any different, but we have a tendency to believe that whatever time we're in is a difficult time, right? So what are owners thinking about right now as we're dealing with a lot of new variables that are out there?
Yeah. So owners, I think, first of all, look, they want to be successful, right?
Right.
And what does success look like? In some cases, owners' success means they continue to grow.
I got the first part of that word down. I got the suck part down. I'm working on the cess next.
I knew you had something, but I know it. I know.
Sorry.
I was waiting.
So, I appreciate you letting me cut you off for something stupid. Go ahead, Simon.
So, they want to grow. Others is just focused on their current portfolio size, profitability, market penetration, right? Increased margins, right? Lower cost. Those are things that are a priority to them. Yep. And as you look at our divisions, we structured in a way that we use our expertise in this area to be able to craft really strategies that can help deliver these results. From our ability to get the right people for the right portfolio to execute on top line development while using the Aimbridge engine on the other top line revenue generating opportunities, which we can come back to later. But secondly, really, is to use our scale to take advantage of some of our supplier choices and agreements that we're able to secure very attractive prices, unit prices, to the level at which we're able to really get things at much lower cost than anybody else. All of those things are a point or two addition to your margin that eventually it delivers what owners are looking for. You know, and I think that's important to them. The second part is really, I think owners want the best talent, because in this environment we operate in, having a great GM is a huge impact to your organization. And I think being able to attract talent, good GMs keep people.
Yep.
Good GMs do a very good job of recruiting in this environment. Good GMs always retain staff. And if you don't have a good GM, I'm telling you, it's going to be a terrible 12 or 6 or 15 months coming up ahead of you.
Yeah.
And I think owners want that. They want that stability of a very good GM overseeing their multi-million-dollar asset and being confident that their asset is in the right hands.
Right. How are owners, the general sentiment of owners right now on a go forward basis when it comes to investing either in enhancing properties or developing new ones?
I think owners realize, look, ADRs, if you look at the trajectory of our recovery, right? ADR is a huge component to why most of our hotels, almost all our hotels, are performing at 2019 numbers. It's ADR related. And they realize you charge that level of rate, customers' expectations is higher, right?
Yep. Yeah,
And
they're paying a lot, so they should. Yeah,
absolutely. And you want to make sure you stay relevant in the eyes of the customer. So owners are very interested in making maintenance and upkeep of your hotel, their hotels. They're very keen on that. And I think they're starting to really work with brands in cases where some of their PIPs are due and what needs to get done.
Right.
And they're leaning on our expertise to be able to provide that kind of a technical knowledge and skill set to be able to deliver that for them. So there's appetite for that. Now, there's an erosion in the reserve during COVID, right?
Yep.
And they're working on building that up. So it's a matter of timing.
Right. Hold on one second, because I think we need to explain that to some of the younger people that don't really know what that means. So could you explain what a reserve is first? And then all that money was spent during COVID to keep the doors open in a lot of cases, right? So tell us a little bit about what a reserve is.
In the hotel business, there's a requirement that when you generate your revenue, you have to set aside a certain percentage as a reserve for the upkeep and maintenance of the hotel, in simple terms.
And this is usually driven by a lender's request, right?
Driven by a lender, that's correct. So because they have to look out for their investment. That's where the lender's interest is. So of course they're interested in profitability, but they want to make sure that if they're going to have that asset back, it's in great condition.
That's right. So, because if the furniture is going to wear out in 7 or 10 years, how are you going to pay for it if you haven't been saving for it in advance? Please continue, Simon.
That is correct. So during COVID, lenders were much more accommodating, understanding the difficulty of the economic environment, and they allowed owners to use that reserve to take care of other obligations just to stay afloat during the difficult time. Right. So now we're in a period where now they're beginning to now build that back up. And that's what I meant.
And that building back up part, because you only have a certain amount of dollars, that could take away from either investing in new properties if you're, that type of owner, or even being able to do that PIP that the brands are requesting now, because there's only so much money to go around, and money that you would have had available now isn't. Plus, you've got to put money back to make sure that once again there is money available. So a little rough on these owners. They've been hit by a lot.
But one thing in my world, that's where it matters to do business with Aimbridge and with me, right?
Yep.
Because we're in a position where our top line revenue performance is very attractive. We're doing very well. So that means owners are able to replenish that reserve much faster than usual. Yep. But put that aside, in the eyes of a lender, as you look at development and growing, it's a matter of looking at your current profitability and you being able to say, I can replicate that.
Right.
So the confidence of having that management group that's able to deliver to that profitability level is a very strong position to be in as an owner, to go to a lender to say, I want to build another Homewood Suites. I want to build another Everhome. I want to build another Residence Inn. It matters. And that's where we come in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So tell me a little bit about what you're thinking right now. It's budget season is starting, for example, and I'm starting to get into that, my official begging for clients for next year and stuff like that. So what are you thinking about in terms of opportunities for Aimbridge's select service division and therefore the owners of those hotels?
So what I'm thinking is, looking at how do we outperform how we performed this year. It's easy to go into budgeting the first quarter because naturally the first quarter will do better than 2022 because the COVID still existed. We got a big warming in January, February, so it was really down, right? From the very end.
Yeah,
But
that was not good. I remember in September of 21 at the lodging conference, everyone was like, "Yay!" And then like a month later, we're like, "Oh, what?"
What? Exactly. But things picked up. So how do we outperform those numbers? Because that's important.
Because
So
that's tough.
where
And when one of the things is we always are like fighting against last year's numbers or whatever it is. And this past year in aggregate, I think is going to turn out to be a real gangbuster of a year, which makes it harder to achieve those numbers next year and then surpass them, right?
Yes, that is true. And that's where it comes in, where in my position as divisional president and my other colleagues, you're able to rally your group from your direct executive team to the supporting departments to build your strategy, your revenue strategy on how you're going to execute. And mind you, within this division dynamics, you have now sales reporting directly to you, revenue management tied to your team. So you can bring the team together and talk about collaboration. Expertise plus collaboration really delivers outcomes that you can imagine. And if you're able to put that together, and that's the environment that's been created for us to be able to do that. So I worry about that secondly. That's what I'm focused on, secondly. And third really is the current hiring staffing challenge, right?
Yep.
How do you navigate through that? So our recruitment programs, our recruitment resources we have, how do we make sure that we reduce our dependence on contract labor?
Right.
That is key. And we are really putting in strategies in place to really make sure that we reduce that dependency. The more we do that, first of all, the output is much better.
Yep.
And secondly, really, when you talk about margins, the expense line on just the contract labor is a lot lesser.
Right.
Owners want that. And then brand, in terms of delivering to brand expectations, people who are trained and retrained and constant, those are the guys that can deliver that brand promise. But having a revolving door of associates every day never gets you anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where our management pool, that's why I reference having a great manager. We focused on training and enhancing the skill set of our GMs. We have this program called Market Connect.
And what's that?
Market Connect is our GM training program that all our new GMs, within 90 days, they come out to the corporate office. We immerse them into the Aimbridge way and then train them really how to be really like effective leadership, effective execution of their task, all of that stuff and the resources they have that they can tap into to help them focus on hotel performance rather than all other distractions that somebody in the corporate office could help support them through that.
Right.
So we've been doing it even till like mid 20, actually all of 2021, we've been doing Market Connects, GM Connects, even though everybody else was not traveling, we were doing it. We started virtual in late 2020 and then went in person in 2021.
Wonderful.
And the next week, we have a group coming in again. So it's
nice.
Continuous. So we continue to build on them and continue to really help them prepared to be able to perform in their new role.
Right. Yeah. All right. So a little bit a different question for you. I've been thinking about this for the last 6-8 weeks or so. This past summer was so good. People spent a lot of money to go away. You could look at it. You could look at it in several ways. Number one, people will spend that money forever, or maybe what some other folks are saying. They blew all their money this summer. Next summers, nobody's going to spend any money. Right. Prices are getting so much more, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
How are you thinking about the future and the changes in the market dynamics that we may or may not see next summer or deeper into 2023, do you think?
First, this is how I think about it. There's been change in the office dynamics, right?
Correct.
Business travel. People are now virtual, right? And people are traveling. They're going on vacations while still working. So you see a family, both spouses, right? They can travel and be in San Diego, California, right? Or be in Nashville, Tennessee. But yet they're still working, but they're able to experience what Nashville has to offer. and they'll stay there for 7 days. Welcome to my extended stay hotel.
Yes.
Right. To me, it's how do I make sure that I am present as the customer journeys.
Right.
I am there to be able to provide that accommodation. That's one.
Right.
Two is, look, my niche on select service and extended stay, people are always going to relocate. People are going to always get those projects.
Right.
Corporate travel and training will always be persistent, right?
Right.
Project-related business, construction, you name it, technical jobs.
Right. And let's not forget divorce.
Hey, you said it. I didn't say it. That's the reality.
No, but it's true. Yeah.
It is a fact. It is
right.
actually a demand pool that we actually tap into. We do. And so all of that exists. So my point is, if you ask me what am I focused on, I'm focused on making sure that I am in a position that I can continuously be able to identify those touch points and make sure I'm winning.
Yep.
Winning in terms of market penetration and just being very dominant in terms of being present and ready to accommodate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the good thing about extended stay is it is awfully resilient and kind of outside general market dynamics that we generally think about in the hospitality industry. Yes. My question totally came from that world, right? So then let me ask you this, Simon, because we are shifting the way that we work and live and play and all of those cliches that are out there. How are you seeing the ability to leverage, for example, those digital nomads in a realistic way going forward? Not just that people are staying 7 nights instead of 3 or 4 or something like that. But the reason why I say that is I think there's a lot of young people that aren't committed that have the opportunity to move freely around the world. How are you focused on perhaps that emerging group of travelers?
No, absolutely. I think we focus on making sure that we become, when you talk about it, is practicality. Making sure you have a practical room that addresses the needs of that emerging new traveling style, right? They have all they need. And it's just not a bed. You know, there are more things to that. What is of need to them? Make sure you're satisfying that. So we're able to get that in the select service front and on the extended stay front. That's one. But two, what really makes me excited is you can track the journey of that customer, or you can continue the journey with the customer. So in Aimbridge, we have this program called Boomerang, right? And which is our lead referral program. First of all, we have the most dense market coverage, right? So talk about good, big being good, right? Big is good. Big is great. Because as that customer leaves Norfolk, Virginia, right? Traveling to LA, we can refer them to our LA property.
Right. Yep.
Even from LA to Tennessee, you can track them there. To Aurora, Colorado, we can track them there and give them bookings and take care of them. So we're able to follow that guest through their journey. And project related, personal preference of travel pattern and where you stay, where you live, where you vacation, we're able to do that. Not a lot of organizations can tell you they can do that. And nobody does it like us because nobody can have that the hotel density to be able to support that.
Cool. So. Yep, you sure do. How many properties does Aimbridge oversee these days? I
1,003.
All right. I just wanted to make sure it was over that number before. I didn't want to
ask me in 3 months and it'll be different. Ask me in 6 months. And
I know. I'll ask you in 10 minutes. It could be different. That for sure. Simon, before we wrap up today, I want to get a little personal to share some lessons that you might have learned in your career real quick. What's the hardest professional challenge that you overcame and how did you do it in your career so far?
Oh, goodness. That's a good question that I did not expect.
No, I know. Sorry, but you're just such an open guy. And I think that you could really share some good information for our listeners.
Yes. And I'll go professional/personal, because I think you just heard me tell you, I grew up in the industry and in the space, right? When I first started working, I was a single young, college-going young man.
Yeah.
And I grew to be a husband and a father, and being able to balance that and being there for my team, being able to run the business and provide that leadership that my team needed, but also being able to be that father figure to my kids and being present, that balance is a challenge.
Yeah.
And the higher you grow in the organization, you gotta get sharpen that tool and get better at it and realize, take opportunities where you can make an impact, because you won't have the luxury of, from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. you're with them all the time. You don't have the luxury of being there for every activity or recital.
Right.
You don't have the luxury of being there for every soccer game.
Right.
But being able to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in between, and yet be able to be there for your team as they go through take care of the business or go through very difficult moments. I think for me, that is a journey that I had to use mentors. I had to really step back and revisit myself, and I was been able to make good adjustments
it could be tough because it's a balance, and over time, if you're not really careful, you wound up really sacrificing one over the other instead of trying to find a happy medium. I've never been able to find the right balance, and I'm sure my kids' future therapy bills will bear that out. But until then,
I think it's open to a presentation, to interpretation, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a balance for you. What works for me and probably will not work for you, right? So what works for you, I think, is the right solution.
Right.
Is the right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I did balance it pretty well. Although these jobs are demanding, we travel a lot. Fortunately for me, when I'm home. Now my kids started college this year, but I was able to really fundamentally focus on them. So when I wasn't away, I wasn't worried about it because I worked from home a lot, So
but what's cool though? Now that they're going to college, within your travel, you can go and have touch points during that.
Dude, they've got my son who's going to Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He's got a homecoming weekend.
There you go.
I got a buddy in Pittsburgh who I'm going to do a show at his hotel the day before. So I have an excuse to, drive back and forth and that kind of stuff.
So think about it, right? Before, if you were not in this space doing what you do, you would have to wait till Thanksgiving to see the guy.
I know. Not good.
There you go.
Not good. Yeah.
So it just works out.
It does.
Taking advantage of those opportunities. So I'm in the same pool. I got 2 college going kids, a freshman and a junior, and I get a chance to see them, and they're excited. I'm excited.
Yep.
Box checked. We go.
It's the best. I run into somebody at like every conference, I feel like at this point. I'm like, hey, what are you up to? Are you staying till when? They're like, no, I have to leave. My son or daughter's in school over here, and I'm going to go. I'm like, great. Love it. Yeah.
Yes.
So Simon, how can we learn more about you and Aimbridge? Give us a good plug.
Hey, I'll tell you, Simon, if you are interested in growing your extended stay, your select service portfolio, and be it full service too, I think we have a home for you. And I think I can speak for my colleagues that we are well-resourced, where the expertise exists, and we just have the capacity to be able to drive and prioritize what is more important to you. Personally, I think I'm all about leadership, being able to impact people. I have this one personal goal, and is when I meet somebody, I want to leave them different. I want to impact them, and I also want to change. So when I meet you and when I leave, I want to say, wow, that's different.
Awesome.
And I also want to say, wow, that's different. I have been waiting for this to have that time with Glenn.
Yeah, baby.
Never had it. Tracked him for 2 weeks, 2 states. Finally got it.
Woo. And I'm sorry that I disappointed you. So grateful. All right, Simon, Mendy, thanks for being here. Let me wrap the show. Hang out backstage for 1 minute. Thanks so much. We'll see you. We'll see you soon. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here. Remember, subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you're watching us. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Stitcher. All of those places, we are there. And if you happen to be listening to us, why not watch us? Watch us on LinkedIn. Watch us on Facebook. Watch us on YouTube. The whole catalog of shows at novacancynews.com. Of course, he's at Anthony Hotels. I'm Traveling Glenn. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on. And I will see you tomorrow.